Let me give you just a quick outline of our structure. Each candidate will have 3 minutes for an opening statement, and then we will invite questions from the news media representatives. And for those questions, the first response will be 1.5 minutes, followed by 2 minutes by the other candidate, and another half a minute for further comment if the first responder chooses to. The orders have been chosen by lot this evening, and with 3 different random processes. So after we go through a series of questions from the media, then we will have questions from you audience members, and I see several have been turned in already. And feel free to keep writing and thinking. And who's collecting those? Mary Lee is, and they'll come over to the table here to make sure that they haven't been asked already before they get handed to me and I start to read. Okay, and then after we conclude those questions, then we will have a 2-minute closing statement from each of our 2 candidates. And the candidates, as you probably know by now, R.J. Sumney and Michelle Pappy, going for the 3rd Ward. And if I could take an extra 3 seconds, I spent 8 years as the 3rd Ward member of council some time back, so I have at least as much interest in this ward race as would be any other. And so let's turn to the opening statements, and R.J. Sumney will give his first, and then Michelle. R.J.?
Thank you very much. My name is R.J. Sumney, and I would like to thank the League of Women Voters for the opportunity to speak before the community tonight and debate some issues. I look forward to a healthy dialogue. A little bit of information about myself. I'm a 37-year resident of Athens. I'm currently employed as the business manager of the Post, which is the independent student newspaper at Ohio University. I am also currently on the Athens City Planning Commission, as well as an executive board member for the Athens County 317 board. I have experience with some other committees on the city as well as the county, and with the combined experience that I have from my work as business manager of the Post, I think I present a great opportunity to make a contribution to the city of Athens by being a member of council. My chief concerns are twofold. One is obviously an overview of the city and as part of the representatives of that body. But my primary concern is with the 3rd Ward. I am a resident of the 3rd Ward for the past 17 years. I've lived on Elmwood and then up on Briarwood Drive. I have a vested interest in how our neighborhood is kept safe, how our infrastructure works properly, and how we maintain a quality lifestyle in Athens. My belief is that the city wards, individually and collectively, are the foundation of the quality of life that we have in Athens. So it's important for us to make certain that we take a priority in protecting the wards as best we can. That would be from anything from the aging infrastructure that needs improvement. We need to have more safety in terms of maybe some more neighborhood watch programs. We also need to provide maybe some more opportunities for our park that we have up in Highland. I'm also looking at an overview of the city in terms of developing a strategic business plan that the council can provide Athens area businesses. A number of the business people that I've spoken with really want to have direction from the city. They want to know where to go, and I think that it's time for the city council to be more proactive in terms of how we present business and how we can diversify the economy here in Athens. This, tied with the infrastructure, is going to be crucial in the next few years for Athens, because if we don't have a proper infrastructure system, we don't attract the kind of businesses that we want to have coming here to town.
Thank you. Next statement from Michelle Pappy. Michelle.
I had to write mine down. Thank you. So I want to welcome everybody and thank the League. And I hope you leave after this with more info about RJ and myself. I think a lot of you I met before we even started said we've had a council person for many, many years, and we need to meet who the two new people that are running. My decision to run for city council comes from a position of civic mindedness and believing that effort and thoughtfulness leads to quality decision making. As a therapist and mother, I am a teacher and advocate. Problem solving and goal setting are tasks that are consistently accomplished every day. I enjoy the challenge of finding solutions to people issues. Experience being a founding member of a neighborhood association, ANA, since 2003, and member of the Clean Committee since 2005, have honed my team building, advocacy, and problem solving skills at the community level by working with city and OU employees, neighbors, business owners, and community organizers. Mayor Rick Abel appointed me to the Board of Zoning Appeals in July of 2007, and I was elected May of 2010 to be Democratic Precinct Committee member for the 3rd Ward, Precinct 6. These experiences have led to a decision-making that takes serious thought and focus. 3 words describe my belief on being a council member. I believe you need to be, I believe in advocacy, accountability, and approach. As I've been campaigning, the issues I'm hearing from 3rd Ward voters include issues of concern to me as well. RJ's included many of those: safety, infrastructure improvements, communication, revitalization and sustainability, and job creation. I know that the constituents of the 3rd Ward are engaged and have great ideas and solutions. As a member of council, I want to be a part of the solution and implementation. I believe the citizens of Athens value elected officials who are active, focused, and engaged. I ask that you consider my qualifications and motivations as you make your voting decision. Thanks for listening, and I'm ready to answer questions.
Thank you both. So now we will turn to questions from the media, and by a random process a few minutes ago, RJ, you will answer the first question first, and then we'll alternate after that. And the first question will come from David DeWitt of the Athens News. David?
Thank you, Ellsworth. Good evening. Nancy Bain has played a big role on City Council's Finance and Personnel Committee. Sherry Kuhn, who's also stepping down, chairs the Safety Committee. If elected, given your respective roles on city boards and commissions, where would you wish to focus your energies on City Council?
First of all, I would like to work with the city, the mayor's office, in terms of deciding where our future is in terms of a budget. To begin there, to begin to prioritize what is going to be most necessary to us as a community, to begin to also explore the ideas of the strategic business plan that I mentioned earlier. One of the things that, again, we need a little bit more of in our community is direction economically. I think that we need to help our business community in terms of how we diversify the economy. At the same time, how are we going to be complementary with the university and with some of the other services that are involved here in the community. So I would begin also to, after I would, along with council, prioritize what we need to do to go forward. Then we start to establish a plan that the community can work with. All of this also would entail a lot of input from the community because I'm very constituent-oriented, and that would be my goal.
Thank you. Michelle?
I definitely believe council needs to take some leadership on this issue. When knocking door to door and meeting with constituents, you hear about the concerns of safety and infrastructure. There's no doubt about that. We have some issues coming down with the budget. We heard about that at the mayor's debate last week. We know that those things are coming up, and we are definitely going to have to prioritize. And those on council, and considering the committee work that Nancy and Ms. Kuhn have been involved with, There's going to be a lot of homework and a lot of information we're going to need from our constituents as to where they want to go. It costs money to pave roads. We want to have a fully staffed services, fire, police. It's going to be difficult, and everybody on council is going to have to work as a team. I think that the issue of job creation is one, when I look at the different committees, there are 8 on council. I believe that we need to really consider whether it's finance or personnel or community issues or how we ever want to do that. I do think we need to have a more open door. We have a lot of entrepreneurs in this community who live within the city limits. We have startup companies that are going on. We need to coordinate. And the Innovation Center, the Voinovich Center, we have a lot of brain power in this community and private citizens who are willing to step up and work on these issues with city officials. And I think we have to be open, and that's the kind of person I want to be.
RJ, you're welcome to respond to that for 30 seconds if you wish.
I believe that I agree with Michelle on a number of these points. One of the things that, again, we'll have to look at is, in terms of infrastructure, how we're going to build that, how we're going to continue that with a solid plan. Because right now I think that we tend to approach it with a Band-Aid. And what I would like to see more is an approach where there's a solid plan in place for the future so that we can better implement where we're going to be putting our resources.
Thank you both. And for the next question, Michelle, you will address it first, and we turn to Sarah Brumfield of the Athens Messenger. Sarah?
With all members of the Finance Committee leaving in some sense from council, what expertise do you think you have that can contribute towards the city's financial situation?
I don't know. Whoever is appointed to the committees, I think that happens after everyone's elected. I would say that I have an understanding of what the finances are. I believe that our auditor, in speaking with her and speaking and watching what happens on council, they've been very cautious about how monies are spent and those kinds of things. I think we need to listen what they have to say, but I also think that we can, following up on the last question, receive input from business people, other people in the community who know how money is generated. We need to go to our grant writing ability. We've been able to do some incredible projects recently with additional monies, the sidewalks to schools, all those kinds of things. We really need to keep encouraging that.
I would be very comfortable being involved with the Finance Committee. It's what I do at the Post. I deal with budgets. I deal with everyday problem solving on an economic level. It's no secret that advertising, newspapers aren't the greenest things in the world anymore in terms of money. But what you learn to do is to tighten the budget, and where you need to reapply the budget. These are some of the experiences that I've learned and that I can bring to council. I'm very understanding of what we need to do to have a balanced budget based on what I have to do at my work every day.
Michelle, you have 30 seconds if you choose to respond.
I would just add that I have not been an accountant or a business manager, but I believe that problem-solving skills and looking at what the numbers are and sitting down and trying to figure out those problems are an important way to answer that and to follow up on that. I think that we as a community, it's an issue for all the taxes we pay. We need to understand how that's spent. Thank you.
Thank you. For the next question, RJ, you will address it first, and we turn again to David DeWitt, Athens News. David?
Well, in speaking about the economy and your roles on boards and commissions, I can't help but think about the issue within the Third Ward itself of the rezoning of North Court Street. This is a scenario where there's landlords, as I understand it, around there who would like it rezoned so that they can create more housing. There's concerns about parking and noise, and I know that you both have dealt with this issue at the city level. And I just wanted to get your feelings on this proposition.
Well, David, as you probably know, the rezoning attempt has crossed the desk of the Planning Commission, I believe 3 times, and all 3 times it was recommended that the rezoning take place. I personally voted for it because, number one, the city planning director pointed out that parking which was considered to be the biggest issue, was not going to be as big an issue as people might have thought, because basically off-street commercial parking could have gone on to the city, the streets itself, with the metered parking, which would help with city revenue. Also, in terms of what would be accomplished by leaving the B2D zone as it is, number one, if you were concerned about noise, the fact that under the B3, you would actually have to be 200 feet, if you were a bar, 200 feet further away from an R1 zone, whereas with the B2D, you only have to be 100 feet. So, the noise, it would seem to me, would be louder with the B2D, which it currently is. I just thought that it was better to be consistent with the rest of the uptown area by molding that into a B3 area.
Thank you. Michelle?
Yes, I've been on the forefront of this issue as being a member of ANA and the Neighborhood Association. We have directly met and discussed with city officials the concerns that we had with additional parking on our streets. We see it every single day between business hours from 9 to 5, what happens on Grosvenor and North Congress streets. I'm not saying that it's an issue that can't be resolved. I think it's one of these that you need to sit down with the people involved. City Council has turned it down every time the Planning Commission has put it forward. So there must be some reason, I believe, that they say that it should not be. Our issue is parking. Our issues have been parking issues and noise issues. And I believe that our neighborhood deserves a buffer zone. And that, thus far, is what has happened with the zoning as it currently stands. There are concerns about if it was made consistent all the way up and down Court Street, what would happen to our neighborhood. And a residential neighborhood sits right, an R1 district sits right on the edge of that zone. And we just have to pay close attention to that. And we can't do it for consistency purposes or just because the other part of the street is that way. We really have to look at what the issues are. Thank you.
Okay, RJ, 30 seconds if you like.
Again, I would submit that probably as a B3, there might actually have been more protection for the R1 neighborhoods. Again, backing up bars an additional 100 feet would obviously cut down on a lot of the noise factor. I also believe that, again, when the city planner suggested that, in fact, the parking could hold as far as off-street commercial parking being on the street itself, that you, okay, I'm sorry, there we go. I'm stopping.
Okay, thank you both.
She who must be obeyed.
We have the best timekeeper between the North Pole and the South Pole, and we're blessed that we do. For the next question, we'll turn to Sarah Brumfield of the Athens Messenger, and Michelle, you'll address this first.
What personal strengths do you have that would make you a good council member?
I believe that I'm very approachable. I'm a problem solver. I like to bring people together. I've worked on many committees in this community. The Clean Committee is Clear Litter Everywhere in Athens Now committee that was established many years ago, and we have really had to work hard on working through serious issues, from solid waste issues to how to pick up daily litter. And it's been a very difficult, I think everybody in this community is concerned with the way the community looks. So that was a very difficult. The university is involved, the city is involved, neighbors are involved, business owners are involved, and we would meet on a very regular basis and plow through the problems and try to figure out how to solve them. We've done some good work. There's more to be done. I have a lot of motivation that way, and I really feel that's how you solve problems, that you really have to sit down at that level and figure that out. And the constituent base of the Third Ward has some excellent solutions when you go around and talk to people. Some solutions I've had, but they're great. Everybody has great ideas. So you need to include those folks.
Thank you. RJ?
I would start off by saying that I'm a listener. I like to build by consensus. I like to find out what other ideas are out there. I am a problem solver, as I said earlier. When you work in my job, you're dealing with a lot of problems every day that you have to deal with in an efficient, quick manner, but a thoughtful manner. I believe that I'm someone who has a heart. I'm sympathetic to people who do have problems, and I do try to see what I can do to alleviate those problems. I understand that those are the kind of things that make things easier for everyone and brings people closer together. I draw from my experience as a salesperson, as a business manager at the Post, in dealing with administrators, students, city administrators, residents, students, if I didn't mention them. I deal with all segments of the population, so I have a clear understanding of where people are coming from, what are priorities in their life, and sometimes they don't always gel. So it's my job in that situation to see what we can work with, what we can come up with to form some sort of resolution to what problems people might have.
Thank you. Michelle, and you have 30 seconds.
Excellent listening skills. I've been paid to do that for a living for over 25 years. Problem solving, I'm motivated, I'm a leader, I've been an administrator. I enjoy, like I said in my opening statement, I really enjoy solving people issues. I think you really have to search sometimes. Not everybody's always willing to answer, and you have to find out what people want. And I think I'm good at that, and anybody that's worked with me probably can attest to that.
Thank you. Let me suggest that we don't have a great flood of questions. I think you have any on the table in front of you. I've got 3 or 4 that have been sent my way, so feel free to put on your wisdom cap and draft a question or two. And while you're thinking, why, I'll turn again to David DeWitt for a question, which will be addressed first by RJ.
Thank you. In a little bit tonight, City Council is having a series of committee meetings. And one of the things I noticed they're discussing is some sort of monies they found with regard to the Grosvenor slip. And from what I can tell, a big part of the job of a city council member is looking for grant monies, focusing in on certain projects and ideas, and trying to help the city solve them by finding programs and stuff elsewhere. Do you have any ideas specifically for the Third Ward and projects that you'd like to pursue within the ward, maybe grants that you have ideas about pursuing, that type of stuff?
The slippage issue on Grosvenor is, I think, one of the more key or crucial issues in the ward. although I understand from Andy Stone that that's slated for some work for next year, which is terrific news to hear. I think some of the biggest problems I'm hearing is in terms of runoff, drainage issues in neighborhoods. Some of the people I spoke to between Tulane and Harris here in town had severe drainage issues during heavy rains, the runoffs from the hills, where basically there's not enough infrastructure to take that water out. Someone actually said that the water flooded their basement at one time because it was so heavy. You have a lot of the clay sewage pipes that come down, for instance, from what I call Briarwood Hill down into the Cable Lane, Tulane Harris area. And again, when Michelle and I talk about the aging infrastructure, I would think that is one of the things that I would turn my attention to first, is because so much of that is been long-standing, and I think it needs to be resolved very quickly.
Thank you.
I definitely agree with RJ on many of those issues. The Grosvenor Slip I'm very familiar with, and there was a plan for that 20 years ago. And I feel with our advocacy from our neighborhood association, which is in the near north side, we've really pushed, and we had a prior administration who I helped in a lot of ways, but it was never on target. And having a timeline for infrastructure so everybody out there in the audience knows when the construction is going to occur, whether it's on Tulane or wherever, we need to have a better understanding of that. And we on council need to direct that and make sure that that happens. The Grosvenor Slip apparently is going to be fixed because the advocates in the neighborhood kept pressuring the city, kept pressuring the city, kept pressuring the city. And that's why it's happening, and we made it become a focus. And again, when you're a third ward representative for your constituents, you need to make sure that that's heard and prioritized. So I believe the city is going to do that now. It sounds like that is going to happen, and I believe that needs to happen all over the third ward. And we need to have a timeline, whether it's a retaining wall, whether it's a guardrail on a short part of the street, whether it's sewage issues or storm sewers, whatever it is, we need to have a timeline, and we need to be able to tell 2 years down the road, 3 years down the road, hopefully that money will be there. That's what I think needs to happen.
Thank you. RJ?
I would say that 10 years is way too late. Grosvenor was an issue that has been before the city for a long time, and I think that's where myself or Michelle really need to get after the city administration. We need to be strong advocates, and we need to get after things because, again, with the problems where you could literally see the road eroding, falling away, people live on that street, so the people are not going to leave, so you need to fix the streets.
Thank you. For our next question, Michelle, you'll address it first, and we will turn to Sarah Brumfield. Sarah?
Aside from litter and infrastructure, what are some of the issues you think that the city is facing as a whole?
The budget is a huge issue. With the cutback from the state, we're going to really have to look at how to make up potentially $700,000 of revenue. As we know, in the notes that I've been paying attention to, our interest income fluctuates, those kind of things. I will say that in terms of responsiveness, in my neighborhood particularly, we had water line breaks, probably upwards of 15 to 20 over a several-year period of time on Highland and Woodward Avenue, and that's from the clay moving, as RJ explained. They actually put in a new water line. And again, that's advocacy, that's people going to meetings, that's people discussing the issues. I was one of those people who did that. And we have these pressing issues. And in my book, what keeps Athens different is the vitality of the neighborhoods, the differentness, the brick streets. That's one of the things people see when they come here. They want those things repaired. Look at how great Carpenter is when they got that repaired. Everybody loves that street and the sidewalks. So we need to remember what keeps Athens special and unique and focus on that as council members when we're budgeting, when we're looking at infrastructure, whatever the issue is.
RJ?
Again, I would say the economy and how we grow it. I think for too long, Athens City Council has sat on the sidelines and let other people do it. What we need to do on council is to be more proactive, more involved with small business, the young entrepreneurs that we're talking about. I spoke with somebody on Patton Avenue the other day that really talked about how many young entrepreneurs there are in this town, but they don't have direction. They don't know where to go to network, to expand what they want to do. This is one of the things that I suggested, for instance, using the Armory as a workspace where individual entrepreneurs or small groups of people could get together, rent space, network, do their work, things of that nature, things that would encourage small business and young entrepreneurs to come out and be more involved with the community, because these are the kind of people that we want to retain. These are the kind of people that we want to have stay in our community and build, because I don't think that as with state budgets being reduced, I think grants are going to be reduced at some point. So, what we really need to do at this stage is rely less on grants and funding from the state and rely more on the brain power that we have here in Athens, because we have tremendous talent. We have some of the smartest people in the world who live in Athens, and if we can't get people together to resolve issues, to show the rest of the country, how it can be done, I really have a positive outlook at what the city can do, and the city council needs to get behind that and help direct that.
Thank you. Michelle?
I would respond to that and say leadership. We need to have people on council. We do have the OU Innovation Center. We have the Voinovich Center. We have AceNet. Talk about the foodie world. You've got some great people there who are constantly advocating. There are places we just need to make sure that the chamber, the Rotary, the business leaders are helping our young entrepreneurs and encouraging them where to go and get the support they need. My neighbor across the street is one of those people, and I know he's been very active locally with utilizing those resources.
Thank you. So that'll conclude the questions from our news media reps, and thank you both very, very much. And so now we will turn to the next pool of resources, namely our audience here. And here's the first question. Do you think sufficient work has been done on Woodward, and when will it be finished? And RJ, you get to address that first.
I think that more work needs to be done on that. What we need to, this is part of the timeline that I think we're talking about, is when these issues continue to build, it creates more pressure, I think, on city services to prioritize what needs to be done. And I would like to see in the future more planning and being able to accelerate the process in terms of making the renovations or the improvements that we would need on this individual streets and the individual projects.
Michelle?
They've made a good start on Woodward. Obviously the paving and all those kind of things need to happen, the curbing, all that kind of renovation. It's been a difficult process. It was put off for almost 60 years apparently. It wasn't a quick fix. It's going to have to keep working on it. But again, the timelines, the knowing what the issues are that need to be improved, all those kinds of things need to happen. And we need to, on council, we need to make sure that we know what those are, and we need to communicate that information back to the constituents so they understand what they are. If you get a phone call, somebody needs to answer that question and find out what the answer is. So that's my answer.
Thank you. And RJ, you have 30 seconds if you wish.
I agree that a council person needs to make certain that they are accessible at all times. We are your advocates. We are the people that protect your interests, and so it's important upon us to be able to have the kind of input and the kind of mutual dialogue with our constituents in terms of what needs to get done and be able to make intelligent, common sense decisions on what we prioritize. Yeah. Oh,
That's
that
hard.
one.
Thank you. And I must say, our candidates are very good about those times. I mean, and so it's not as though we have anybody who's spending an extra 45 seconds once the hint is that your time is up. And I want to thank you both for being such good citizens that way. That's great. The next question, let's see, Michelle, you'll address this one first. How would you improve the code enforcement in the residential neighborhoods?
Wow, I knew that would be asked. In talking with several members in the ward, I've gotten several good ideas about some ordinances and different things to improve enforcement and timelines. Now, code is in charge of many different things, so I'm not sure what this question is referring to, but I do know that the city hired a litter control officer. I was a part of that hiring when we made that recommendation to the council from Clean. That person is in charge of litter, trash cans, general things like that. Then you have your code officers who tend to do rental inspections and make sure that the smoke detectors are there and all those important things that we look at to have safe rentals. We all remember what happened many years ago. We never want to see that happen again. So the code office director reports to the city service safety director. I met him and worked in committees with him many times. It's an ongoing process to work with folks like that and to make sure that they are enforcing what we see. And that's an ongoing process.
Go right ahead, RJ.
In talking with code enforcement, I think that things really are looking up over the last 3 years when we compare them to the previous administration. I think a lot of work has been done with code enforcement. I think that they have been much more stringent than in the past, and I think that's all positive. More work needs to be done. They know that. Michelle and I know that. We need to, again, be able to accelerate the situation by helping them identify where problems are more quickly. We need to be more active with code enforcement in terms of directing them and helping with the direction of what they're trying to accomplish within the wards. Your trash issues, your issues of parking, things of that nature are all things that we need to be working more with code enforcement about. I wouldn't even mind investigating the idea, I know it's been discussed in previous years, of hang tags or spaces along the curb that are marked out for people who have need for emergency care. When you have close-in neighborhoods with a lot of parking problems, how can you get an ambulance into somebody who needs some help on a perennial basis there? So, could we mark off places, curbs, where ambulances can get into specific houses for people who show that they have demonstrated that they have a real need for help and need for help quickly when it comes.
Thank you. Michelle?
I think the bottom line again is communication, making sure that the code director has the information that he needs to have. Communication is really important, and I've seen this change and the shift from the viewpoint and the ideas of the people that work in the code office. So I would agree with RJ on that fact, but there is still work to be done. We need to continue to keep that dialogue going and work with the administration on that.
Thank you. Our next question, RJ, you'll address it first. And we're going to use the verb meld, M-E-L-D, just in case you don't understand me when I use that. How would you meld the interests of the students on Court Street with the residents on Briarwood Drive? And I presume the writer means streets such as Briarwood. So how would you meld the interests of the students on Court Street with the residents on Briarwood Drive?
Well, I'm not quite clear on the question, to be really honest with you. What I would say is that I'm very interested in making certain that the relationship between student and non-student residents in Athens grows. It does no good for a community to marginalize a segment of our population. We only get better, we only understand each other better if we talk to one another. I've encouraged students to join the neighborhood associations. I'm not trying to scare anybody here, but they live in the community, they live in the neighborhoods. Let them participate. I've talked with Student Senate about the idea of, could you offer a class or some sort of program through your off-campus living about how to live in a neighborhood, how to get along with your neighbors, because for many of these students this is the first time they've lived by themselves, or even if it's with a group of people, they're living away from their parents or away from a dorm setting for the first time. So how do we educate them? How do we make them a part of our community? How do we make them recognize that we know that they are residents of our town just as we are? And I guess that's the way I would answer the question is building better relationships between the two, because I think we have a lot more commonality than we do differences.
For those, I don't know if many of you saw the newspaper, but many of you know that we were rated one of the best college communities in the country. I'm sure communication and the way we interact was a part of that. We are a very diverse and active community here, which is why many of us choose to live here. And the students are very much a part of that, and I think a lot of people wouldn't live here if the students weren't here. They enjoy that. Many of the people on Briarwood work at the university and interact with students all the time. So the off-campus living office was, again, not every university has an off-campus living office. That was developed quite a few years ago to help with this communication issue, to help with this information flow. They are offering classes now for students who go off campus, telling them about neighborhood issues and encouraging them how to live civilly. You've heard some of the slogans that the university uses. So I go by students and live with students around me all the time. I live on North Congress Street. So students are part of, they were most recently at our picnic. There was a bunch of students at the Anna picnic and the West Side picnic at Highland Park. So I believe, and I would encourage student input. The Third Ward has many students, and I encourage their input and their involvement, and this is their community too. So we all, they are educated, they know what the rules are. I feel pretty strongly that the off-campus living people are doing that, and we need to encourage more of the positive activities. I think the town hall meetings are great when the students come. I think that's wonderful. That's been a real nice experience.
Thank you. RJ?
I'd like to see more students on city committees. I think that their participation helps the process. Again, they are part of our economy also, and when I talk about young entrepreneurs, I'm talking about students as well who have ideas that they would like to generate. And we really don't have. We have the Innovation Center and a few other things like that, but we really don't have a lot of intermediary type spaces for younger entrepreneurs or individual entrepreneurs. So that's something I would like to see in terms of developing our student relationship with OU students.
Thank you. For our next question, Michelle, you'll address it first. Currently, we have an all-Democrat city council. How will your election help bring diverse opinions to city council?
Well, that's true, Holden. We live in a small town. We run into each other at the farmer's market, at church, in schools, at the grocery store. We see each other every day. And I don't necessarily look at one person and say, oh, they're a Democrat, or they're a Republican, or they're an independent. I don't do that. I see us all as Athenians. And I think when you are a member of city council and you are representing the constituents of a ward, you need to look at those people as a whole and listen to their issues, no matter who they are. So I believe that's the way a good elected official operates, especially in a town like Athens, where it's hard to go anywhere and not know a face, at least. That's absolutely the way I think an elected official to a city council position would want to run and work and be approachable.
Thank you. RJ?
Well, when I was selected to be a member of the Athens City Planning Commission, it probably surprised a few people. And the reason why Paul told me that he selected me was because he liked my different way of thinking. He liked the fact that I had a vision that was a little bit different than other people's, and he wanted to get that mix up on the Planning Commission. So that's what I think I can bring to council as an independent. I agree with Michelle. I really think that the Republican, Democrat, Independent labels on this level of government are really minute. Very few times does that really come up. So what I would bring, I think, to the council is the idea of some different thinking. Let's not say it's a balancing act or anything like that as far as political parties or political philosophy. I think that it's a matter of ideas that Michelle and I, if I can speak for her, are saying that we represent.
Thank you. Michelle?
I would absolutely agree, and we need to listen to what the community is asking us to do, and I think that's where our focus needs to be.
Thank you. I was looking away when you stopped talking,
I know.
looking at the next question. That's
Sometimes
what people
less
do,
is more.
And it was my fault. Thank you. Okay.
You were looking at that timer.
That's right. And Michelle, you have the honor of addressing this question first. So it's convenient that we have a back and forth in the orders here, isn't it?
Is it mine?
It's
I think it's
RJ's.
mine.
Oh, mine, sorry, it's RJ's.
Yeah.
I was looking away at the question, which I should have been. Okay, RJ, sorry about that. Here is yours. Is there anything you think you may be able to do to help low-income housing or to create reasonable rent in the Third Ward?
I'm glad you asked the question. One of the things that I've considered a personal priority in being on the Planning Commission was, how could I help create low-income housing, affordable housing for people in this area. There's a real fall-off in the middle here between the people who can have an owner-occupied home versus a rental. And where do we find the middle ground for people who may not want to live in some of the more congested areas or some of the more noisy areas, but where can we find pockets? Where can we find areas where people can settle in with good quality, affordable housing? And this is one of the big things that we're talking about right now on, for instance, this started with the Graham Drive project and their desire to rezone, one of the things that we're discussing right now is the loss of the ability to have an area for duplexes, things like that. So what I am about is trying to find affordable housing for people, to bring in different types of people into our town to benefit from the great resources that we have, the great libraries, the great art, music that we have.
Thank you.
Today I was
Michelle?
on the phone with a real estate agent who lives in the ward, and we were discussing this issue. And there's a potential right now, because of the economy and what's going down, for many houses in our ward to return to owner-occupied and ownership. And the prices are fairly low. If you believe in sweat equity, those things can be done. And I believe that council and the city can be more proactive. There are some funds out there for people, first-time buyers. It's very difficult, we all know, with the mortgage situation and those kind of things, but we should do whatever we can to encourage that, because again, that continues to help the diversity. I know young people do not, a lot of people don't want to live outside of the city limits. They want to live in the city for our schools, for the water. These issues are only going to continue from a bigger vision picture, only going to continue. Gasoline is expensive. I know of a young man who just bought a house, and he's really putting sweat equity into it. And he's going to live there because he was tired of driving so much and spending so much money on transportation. So I believe it is a vital issue for our community, definitely for the future. And we have a lot of housing stock that could return, especially in our North Hill neighborhood. Probably not as much on Briarwood and some of the other neighborhoods, but definitely close to where I live for sure. And I believe that there are people out there who would love to live in the city. Housing is a big issue. Housing is a big issue. I work in a facility where I work with people from not just this county and the city, but from all over the region. And housing is a huge issue. Thank you.
Thank you. RJ?
The balancing act that Athens has, being a relatively small town in terms of size, physical size, is how we're going to balance our residential with our business needs. And I think that's probably one of the challenges that will face the future planning commission and the city council. How do we balance that? But at the same time, how do we keep this a quality residential community that benefits from the resources we have?
Thank you. Michelle, you'll address this question first. How can we make use of the Armory on Court Street? Why is it not being used, for example, as a location for activities like literacy programs? It's very conveniently located for people from out of town. And what are your ideas for the use of the Armory?
I do know that a group of people, neighborhood people, some people from the Historical Society, different groups have been coming together over the last year to try to look at what to do with the Armory. As many of you who know the building specifically, there are asbestos issues. There are issues that have to be resolved before you could put in literacy programs. I think this is a great question, whoever asked it. It is a wonderful building. It's large. The city is trying to keep the roof repaired and things so it doesn't become to a point where it would have to be not used. So there is a committee and there is a working group out there that's looking at what to do. They've been looking at grant funding, historical issues, those types of funding. So I know that that's out there. I know that there are some very interested people working on improving that building. It's an excellent building and should be restored if we can pull all those things together. Maybe it's an issue for looking for an entrepreneur to help with that, or a sponsorship from other companies or other people. It's kind of it's a beautiful building there at the end of the street, and I would love to see it restored.
Thank you. RJ?
First you fix the roof. But I agree with Michelle that I think in some ways that looking for private assistance that people in the community get behind might be the way to go with that, especially in terms of sharing the costs, because in addition to the roof, there's a lot of other items that need to be addressed there. But as Michelle mentioned, there's a stack of ideas that I've heard. Someone just the other day said, well, why don't you, it's such a beautiful basketball court, why don't you return it just to being a basketball court where people can get out there and play? The idea of the arts, a theater, my idea of the workspace that we talked about. These are all things that has a lot of opportunity. I would like to see the committee for the Armory maybe opened up a little bit more so that they're maybe attuned to some more ideas from the community before we shut it down and start to head towards a specific direction. I almost think that in some ways a town hall meeting would be a great opportunity for the community to get together and talk about the town or the Armory and what we could do with it, and maybe even bring in some business people to talk about that aspect of a shared center between a private entrepreneur that might come in there and pick up a lot of the investment and get the return of some sort of community-driven project. So there's a lot of opportunities for that building. Parking is going to be a problem, but nonetheless, it's something that we really need to address because it's a wonderful building. It's the I think one of the key points of Court Street. Has so many possibilities, but I think we need to get that committee together a little bit more and be a little more diverse in terms of some of the ideas that we're kicking around.
Thank you. Michelle?
Excellent opportunity for a private-public partnership, whether it's OU, whether it's a local business person who, whatever. To me, it's the perfect opportunity for that, for a private-public partnership.
Thank you. Next question, RJ, you'll address it first. And here again, just in case you don't catch my pronunciation, the adjective here is tawdry, T-A-W-D-R-Y. Just so you know that's coming.
You're killing me.
After all, I'd hate for you to hear a word and you would, what in the world did he think he was saying? What can council do about the tawdry entertainment starting up on Stimson Avenue?
Oh, my. The tawdry?
T-A-W-D-R-Y.
Yeah, no, well, I think it's something that what you need to be talking about is with your council people, and you need to be. This is the kind of a thing that you need to put your input in on. They need to hear about what you want to have in terms of your entertainment and what you consider entertainment value. Tawdry. So what I would say is that we have I think a good community standard here. We have families who live nearby. We have a community that I think respects people, and I think that we want to be careful about the type of entertainment ventures that maybe we might want to bring in here. I'm all about free expression, but at the same time, I do think that I think in some ways that in a lot of ways the community has weighed in on this, and I would like to see the community values respected.
Thank you. Michelle?
Well, my answer is going to have to be less is more because I'm on the Boarding and Zoning Appeals. I've been involved in those situations, and unfortunately I can't speak to them because we're being sued. So I cannot speak to that.
I know the feeling.
Okay. I think that saves us a little time going forward. And so, let's see. Let's just check and see. Michelle, you'll address this one first, right?
All right.
Okay. How would you foster more cooperation with Ohio University?
I have found in the work that I've been doing since '03 in the community that the administration at Ohio University has been much more receptive. How do I know this? I think the most recent example is the fire truck. I think that's right there out front. The city asked for some help and through a lot of communication, and that didn't happen overnight. That started many years ago, and the communication has been developing over time for some time. So I listened to the debate last week between the mayors, and I was a little perplexed because I think that communication has improved tremendously. Back many years ago, I was informed the presidents of the university used to meet with town folks. Then there was kind of a lag in that, and then it got restarted up. And I was one of the community people who started meeting with Dr. McDavis, expressing to him the day-to-day issues on North Congress Street with litter, whatever. The off-campus living office was developed, and I mentioned that before. I think that's because of the community efforts. The Vice President of Student Affairs has been coming to clean meetings, is very interested in problem party houses. I mean, he wants to know about these issues. That doesn't happen all the time. So that's improved communication.
I would agree. I think that the fire truck was a great example of, again, the shared responsibility that the community would wish for from the university. And I would agree that the Division of Student Affairs in particular has made great strides in being part of the community and reaching out to the community. I'm a member of the Division of Student Affairs myself, and as an example, I will be walking around on Halloween night, much to my chagrin, but I'll be out there with my green jacket and, trying to make sure that things are kept down in terms of behavior, in terms of people being lost, people being in trouble. And this was something that the Division of Student Affairs, Ohio University, promoted, got behind, and it's a good program. It keeps and believe me, there's actually a lot of the students or the partiers who actually appreciate seeing us out there. Especially women. It makes them feel more comfortable that they can be out there and have fun without worrying too much about danger or threats. And this is a small way maybe to some people, but I think it's a very significant gesture on the part of Ohio University in trying to reach out more to the community. I think that they're also studying the fests, the neighborhood fests, and trying to see what they can do to step up their involvement with that. You have people constantly, administrators and their assistants, their associates, talking with the students constantly. That reflects then onto the community itself, because I think then the behavior changes, that the relationships change in a positive manner.
Thank you. I have been signaled that we will have one more question. Is that correct, Sir and Baum? Okay, and then you always have to make sure I don't forget the closing statements. There's always that danger with me, unlike the rest of the world. Okay, let's see. RJ, I believe you, wait a minute now, RJ, you'll address this one first, is that right?
Unless it involves an adjective.
No, it'll be a tougher challenge than that.
Right.
There have been many rapes in recent months. What can be done to ensure the safety of women and girls?
Great question. One of the things that I've tried to do on the Planning Commission, there's a new housing project that's going down on Stewart Street, a catty corner to Jeff Hill. And the city has worked very hard with that developer in terms of creating a great housing situation and a safe housing situation. Lighting was discussed a lot there. Why I'm bringing that up is that led to me asking, could the city, with the police, with city services, even with the university and student senate, start to identify darkened areas where we can maybe use more light, for instance. There are some dark patches, especially like in the student sections. Can we do something to brighten up those spaces and create more safety? Can we create more in the way of night patrols, in terms of escort services? The university has some of these things, but can we do something to step that up a little bit more? It's an issue, and hopefully what I could do in terms of council is get the Ohio University Police together with the Athens City Police and Division of Student Affairs again in talking about how we can make things safer in our city, but in particularly in the student neighborhoods.
Thank you. Michelle?
I think one of the most proactive things that's happened recently is Chief Pyle has, and maybe you read this, is he's going to put up special lights on Mill Street for Halloween, big bright lights, because there's such a huge student flow from the downtown area down Mill Street, and I think that's a great idea. Lighting is an issue in this town. We love our trees. When the leaves come off, the streets brighten up, but when the leaves are on, we do have very serious dark spots, and that is an issue, especially in the older neighborhoods, that needs to be considered. Then you have the other side of this coin, which is more lights cause problems for the stargazers. So you have to be, there's a real balance here that we always have to maintain. Safety is number one. Safety is number one. And we've had a serious problem in this area with the rape. That was a good question, whoever asked that. And we need to be tuned into that. And there are a lot of programs and a lot of people working on that issue. And we on City Council, obviously anyone on City Council should not ignore that. Safety is a huge issue in this town.
Thank you. RJ?
I really think the only way I follow that up is to think that council needs to maybe does need to step in and foster a little bit more closeness in terms of the relations we have with our neighbors. We have to be looking out for one another. We have to, it's something as simple as that, just looking out for one another. I would like to see more neighborhood watch programs in our ward. I know that some parts of the ward do have it already, but I'd like to extend that, and those are things that we can do throughout the city.
Thank you. Now we'll turn to our closing statements, and by a random process at the beginning of the evening, Michelle, your closing statement of 2 minutes comes first.
Leadership. I'd like to be a leader on council. I really, as I mentioned before in my opening statement, and I'm going to go backwards through those. Both RJ and I have discussed this tonight, but the economy and job creation is a huge thing for our community. Revitalization and sustainability. There's a reason people live in Athens and enjoy Athens, and we need to make sure that we maintain that banner of being a great little college town. We should remember that every day. Communication is super important. That's what a council representative should be there to do, to listen, to advocate. The issue of infrastructure improvements, I can't say that enough. We need the timeline. We need to know what's going on, and the constituents need to know what's going on and how we're going to address those issues. We've made some headway. I really do believe we've made headway in the last few years. We just need to keep moving forward and being positive. And again, this is an excellent community for solving problems. We are a community that solves problems. Look at how the community came together on the fracking issue most recently. Wow. When they wanted to take Snowville Creamery milk out of Kroger a few years ago, boy, that happened. Cincinnati found out about it in 24 hours. The milk was back on the shelf. I mean, these are the kind of things Athens knows how to pull together, and we are going to have to work closer together, whether it's university, whether it's neighborhood people, whatever, because this is our community, and we have to work together as a team.
Thank you. RJ?
I like to tell people that when I first came to Athens that I was looking for a small town with a big library, and I found it in Athens. You know, I'm much older now, and you know, my reasons for living in Athens are much more sophisticated. I have roots here in town. I have a family. I have a great job, and one of the things that I think I bring to council is when I took over as business manager at the Post, it was in a very difficult circumstance, and I was asked to take over that position cold. There was a lot of issues that needed to get cleaned up. There was a lot of concern that the paper was going to function, and I was able to step in with my experience and resolve those issues, and the paper kept publishing and it kept functioning, and it's a great paper. So I do bring the problem-solving aspect. I was reading Atul Gawande's book, Better, not too long ago, and you know, I really come to council with the idea of wanting to make Athens better. This is a terrific community. I can't sit here and say, oh, we have these problems that we have to work out, and that's why I need to be on council. We have a great start. We got a great community. We have terrific people who live here, and one of the things I just want to be able to do is tap into that energy, that vitality that I first found when I came to Athens, and help re-energize the community, continue the improvements that we've made, and be the listener, be the advocate that I hope that Third Ward is looking for. And those are the kind of things that I think I can bring to the table. Thank you very much.